Coach. Get on my better side if you. No, I'm kidding.
Already asked him to adjust it, don't worry.
All right.
With the way that your schedule has shaken out this year and having like this stretch of games here, but having some time off in between games, like what has it been like trying to navigate this, where it's like you're playing these high major teams and you've had some breaks, some shorter turnarounds. Like what is it like managing this part of the calendar for you guys?
You know, I think it almost simulates a bye week in Big Ten play, where you have back to back, high major games, but you got to obviously after this next one we got some time. And listen, we needed the time after Pitt to get healthier, and I think we've continued even coming out of the Illinois game and the Northwestern game in a better spot than we were going into those games health wise, which is important. And obviously we have time on our hands, after this West Virginia game. So that's the biggest thing, is trying to navigate the balance between pushing us at a level to get better in the areas we need to get better, but we got some individuals who need time in between to recover and to get healthier.
How are some of those guys doing? How has Junie come through the last couple of days? How's Tilly's foot? Like where are those guys on their trajectory right now, I guess? Yeah,
they've continued to improve. I think that's the encouraging thing. Coming out of the Illinois game, there weren't any setbacks. So neither of them are 100%, and really no one is, at this point. But I think those guys had some clear injuries that they've been battling through, and both of them are, I think in a better spot heading into the game tomorrow.
And as you've moved on from the Illinois game, obviously we talked to you right afterward, but like when you've like gone over this game with your team, you've tried to move on. Like what was a couple days later? What is the vibe coming out of that game where it's like you did play a top 15 team? It was a one-possession game, a minute to go at home. Some things I'm sure you want to improve on, but like what is the feeling coming out of that a couple of days removed?
Yeah, hungry. Hungry to get better, but hungry going into a game tomorrow. That's a big opportunity for us. I think what we talked about right after the game and kind of the rawness of a game just being finished, and that messaging to the team held true, was really accurate after watching the film that night. And we watched the areas where the things that we could control, we didn't do good enough. And that's the biggest thing, is taking ownership over that, because the basketball's an imperfect game. And but there were stretches, like I discussed, where we hurt ourselves, and we had to watch that, learn from that, and try to simulate some of that in practice yesterday. And to our guys' credit, I felt like they really responded in a great way. So it's obviously different come game time, but we got to answer that that question tomorrow, when there's moments of either team having opportunities to go on a run. When we have our opportunities, we have to play more poised, and we have to play together. And we got to do all that and kind of seize the momentum when we start to build some better.
I know it's obviously early and you haven't had a chance to see a ton, but when you have had setbacks like the Pitt game or maybe bad days of practice, I know you said there haven't been many of those, but how do you feel like this team does in terms of bouncing back and doing those things that you were just discussing?
Yeah, they do a great job. They do a great job responding, taking hard coaching, practicing hard. And that's why we've continued to get better as the year's gone on. And we have to keep doing that while also understanding, and executing what it takes to win, to when you have an opportunity to beat, one of the top 10 teams per the analytics in the country. So that's important, and we know that. And that's the breakthrough we need. We got to do a better job in that regard. And we did well enough to fight back really 3 times in that game. And in those moments, like, that's when we have to double down on doing what's necessary to break through. Not, kind of against Illinois, our shot selection wasn't great when we battled to get back. It happened twice. Then, they hit a big time shot, right, with a minute left. We were, a little too low in our gap. Guy gets a direct line pass, and so those are that's stuff we work on every day. That we gotta own that part. Like, we can do better. Now, he hits the front of the rim and it rattles in. But what's our response? Coming down, because that game could be a really long game left if we come down and score. So that's the stuff that our guys, we work on every single day, and our guys have improved on. I thought we showed improvement in the Northwestern game. Very similar situations. We didn't do as good. And Illinois, to their credit, felt like 120% from the free throw line. And so that, you got to give them credit. They kind of kept us just far enough away to secure the win.
Spearheads that within your group of, sort of leading that bounce back? Is that a coach-driven thing? Is that Bruce and some of the leaders? I know different teams kind of handle that sort of leadership differently. How have you found for your group that's handled?
I think the best teams, that's led by players. When you're building a program, and we're in year 2 and we've taken some step forward, and it's the coach, you have a responsibility, right, to set that tone, but you want to lay that kind of groundwork, and then the players take it from there. And I think we're getting better at that. I really do. We got good leadership on this team. Bruce certainly leads the way within our leadership team. But we got other guys that are showing major improvement and stepping up. Devin's, had a strong voice for us. I think Tilly is getting better, at leading, and he's had some great leadership moments. Gabe's done a good job. Junie's learning how to, be more vocal. So there's a lot of good, as guys are figuring out how to do that and being part of a new group. But we have the potential to do that, and we're seeing it right before our eyes.
Dealing with injuries, but Josh obviously is a guy we know had the long-term knee. Where is he, and kind of where do you think he might be for this season, or is that not even an option at this point?
Yeah, the door hasn't been closed. I think he's doing some stuff on the court now, which is progress, but it's getting down to that point, right, where you kind of got to make a decision. And some of this has to do with kind of the landscape of college basketball, and there's some important legislation that's kind of in the works that could have an impact too. So we're progressing and kind of planning, and he's working to get back as fast as he can, while also protecting him, right? But there hasn't been any decision made or any finality to that as far as this season goes.
Diebler, looking at the last 3 games, you mentioned the team's leadership and the response. What have you learned about this group specifically coming off of those last 3 games?
I think we're resilient. I think when, our back is against the wall, we have a great response, and trying to play with that same urgency and kind of, I guess, at a high level more consistently is what everybody's striving to do across the country. And we're certainly showing improvement in that. And the more, the more our leaders step up in that regard, the better we're going to be, and the more we're going to play at a high level on both sides. So that's what we're fighting for, is more possessions of high-level Ohio State basketball play. And when you go against a team like Illinois, who's got it rolling right now, and you got to have more, and we needed a few more, and we didn't have just quite enough. So we're going to need a lot of those, against West Virginia, who's really had some big time games and played at a high level throughout the course of this season so far, and it'll be a real challenge for us. But that's what we're fighting for. Our leaders got to lead the way.
Following up on that, where would you like to see improvement coming off the Illinois game heading into West Virginia tomorrow?
I'd like to see us, in the moments where we have a chance to go on a bigger run. I'd like to see us play smarter. I'd like to see us, be more in control of the outcome of specific possessions. I thought in the first half, when we came back and we took the lead, and we actually took the lead and got a few more stops, our shot selection, we had 4 just low quality offensive possessions in a row. And in that moment where you gain the lead, I think it was maybe 34-33, you gain the lead, you get a stop, you have a chance to bump it up then you get another set. You have a chance to bump it up again. Not to say, right, we're going to go 4 for 4 the next time, but is the shot quality in that moment better? Like, that's where we got to be better right now in the flow of the game. So whether it's shot quality in some games, or, you know, against Pitt, it was like we needed to rebound better and we needed to get, you know, 1 or 2 more stops in a row because our offense was scoring. Like, that's where we got to play that complementary basketball, you know, and kind of seize those opportunities better.
Jake, a big picture question. You're an Ohio guy. The significance of playing up in Cleveland, you know, not only just for the fan base, but also for big picture recruiting wise, trying to get, you know, Ohio State out there, getting fans up there who can see you guys in person.
Yeah, it's great. And, you know, there's a lot of Buckeyes and deep Buckeye roots up in Northeast Ohio. And, you know, from Clark Kellogg to David Leidy and, you know, Coast to Coast, like there's been guys from Northeast Ohio come here and have high level success on the basketball side, certainly on the football side as well. But we're also exploring, you know, other parts of the state to play games and trying to see if there's creative ways where we can, you know, move a game throughout the state every year or every few years. But, you know, I've been in this game before, Ohio State, West Virginia, in Cleveland. It's a high level game. Atmosphere is always delivered, and the games have always delivered too. So, you know, we're really excited to certainly be able to go up and play in Cleveland. It's important to me to be able to do that and to be able to do it in a high level game.
With an eye on March a bit, you know, what do you try to take away from these neutral site games? You've had a few of these under your belt now since you become head coach. What do you try to take away from in terms of how your team operates, responds, in a setting that's obviously, well, neutral?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is, you know, playing high-level opponents outside of your conference is beneficial, because when you get into the routine of Big Ten play, it you know, postseason is different. Right, it's different from the travel to just how the operations a little. You fight to keep it as you know, to keep as much normalcy as possible. But you can typically get that experience in the non-conference, simulate some of that going into whether it's an NBA arena or it's going to a different city that for the first time for guys that they're not used to going to or whatever. This year we felt like it would be beneficial to do that same thing in February. And that's, I think, part of why our schedule went the way it went so far this season was we took one of those high major games and we moved it to later in the year. And I think it's going to be really beneficial experience for us because it breaks up Big Ten play. You're seeing a different type of team, and you're seeing it in a different city, in a different style arena that normally we would have done either probably by now. Right now we're getting that experience later in the year, which hopefully serves us well going into March.
You brought up West Virginia a few times, but just scouting report what you've seen from the Mountaineers so far this year.
Yeah, tough and disruptive defensively. You know, I think Huff's a gifted perimeter threat. You know, he gets a lot of threes off. He's making them at a really high level, making, you know, over 4 a game, which is really impressive. So they run a lot of good action to kind of get him loose, and we got to have high-level awareness of that. But, you know, they got some other guys who have been really good at scoring in the paint, and, you know, they do a good job going to the offensive glass. So this is a good team, and, you know, I think we're a good team too, and it's going to be a battle of, you know, 2 good teams and who can kind of impose their will, you know, the most. It'll be a battle of wills, and that's what we're getting ready for.
As you're looking for other venues in the state, Northwood has a new school. I don't know if they have a new gym. So
that wouldn't be my first choice in Northwest Ohio, Adam. No offense to that, but we'll keep that in mind.
Looking at like Bruce, Devin, and Junie and the way that they've all kind of collectively played this season, you haven't really had like a game where all 3 of them have popped. Are you still waiting for that, where like you're getting optimum from all 3 of those guys at the same time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the exciting part. You know, it can be frustrating in the same breath, right? But it's the exciting part of what this team can potentially be is, you know, getting kind of everybody, you know, on the maybe on the same page is the wrong word, but getting everybody playing at a high level on the same night. And, you know, I think defining what that looks like is important. It's not everybody scoring 20 points, right? It's everybody playing with high level decision making on both sides of the ball, and trusting each other. And those guys get along really well, as our whole team does. So they do trust each other, but it's in those kind of moments of the game where we got to really lean on each other to have high quality possessions. That's the next step for this group. And listen, I challenged a couple of those guys too. Like, hey, it's time to step up and play at a higher level. And that's part of being a vet. It's part of being now in the second year of this program. Is, there's a consistency required. And I think those guys are all capable of that. And I think we're on the cusp of doing that. But I told our guys, we got to each look ourselves in the mirror individually on how we can get better to help us collectively play it at the highest level possible. And guys have shown that they're willing to do that. And, I think it's just a matter of time before we can get there. Hopefully we can start on Saturday.
Have you seen that, or when have you seen that in practice? What has that looked like when you guys are, whether it's scrimmaging or whatever, but when those three are all connected, what does that look like? Yeah,
I think our shot quality is really high. We're playing with great pace. And, one of the things that's helped us offensively get going in games is we've been able to get some, create some turnovers. We got to do that more consistently, be a little more aggressive. But, those guys are creating for each other typically when we're playing at the highest level offensively. That's the great thing about this team is we are putting multiple playmakers on the floor at the same time. Now, we got to play make in the right way. Because they're all gifted playmakers for themselves too. But when we're letting the ball and kind of determine, what we're doing based upon our cutting and based upon our spacing and based upon our pace, and everybody's an available option. We're really hard to guard, and that's what we're striving to do. And we've done, pretty well so far, but we got another level to get to.
Has like the hip for Devin? I mean, he misses the game with that. And obviously, Junie has the ankle. Like, how much have those, how much has that thrown some of that off? I
think that's fair, yeah. I mean, Tilly, Junie, Devin have all missed practice time. Now, I think it speaks to the toughness those guys have, to battle through the kind of nagging injuries they've dealt with, because they haven't, missed, like none of them have missed, 2 weeks straight of practice, but it's probably made it hard for them individually to get into more of a rhythm, which is natural when you miss some time or you're overcoming some injury like that. But it's part of the game. It's part of the game, and we got big expectations for those guys, and they got to continue to respond and really just keep fighting to get back healthier. But while they're doing that, you got to respond on game day in a big way too. All right, thanks, guys.